Welcome to the Municipal Voice, CCM's radio podcast in collaboration with WNHHLP 103.5 FM, connecting Connecticut's municipalities. We're your source for news on the municipal level across the state of Connecticut. I'm your host, Matt Ford. Be sure to like this video and let us know what you think in the comments below. According to a 2017 report from Columbia Journalism Review, most Americans live in a news desert, meaning they do not see daily coverage of news in their towns. As the internet's big tech companies change the landscape, the news industry is changing at a rapid pace. Discussing this with us today is Doug Hardy, publisher and business manager of the CT News Junkie. He's also a former associate editor of the Manchester Journal-Inquirer. And sitting in for a little while is Paul Bass of the New Haven Independent. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Matt.
So, you've both started in print, and you've moved into online publishing. What's the biggest difference between the two mediums in your mind? Start with Doug.
Sure. And it really depends on how you run your website, your operation, but there's a 24/7 aspect to reporting on the web that it's I think it was seen as an opportunity in the beginning, but it's a little bit of a curse. Whereas in print, you had a schedule and you could build a schedule,
you had a deadline, it went out, and then that one was done. There was nothing to be done about it. There was no going back and update and adding of a thing and whatever.
That's a benefit. You can fix things, right? It's always nice to be able to.
Paul, what do you think? What's
the two biggest differences for me are how you interact with your readers and the many different ways you could tell a story. I love it both. I think it's a golden age of journalism.
You do.
I definitely think this has been the best 14 years I've had doing journalism, closest connection to the reader, most creative ways to tell stories, and I think the best journalism experience has been happening under the radar. The way I see it, Matt, is if your beat at a newspaper is to cover funerals, and only funerals, you live at a funeral home, you think everybody's dying.
Yeah.
So everyone who writes these obituaries for the news industry are all covering the funeral home, which is their old corporate media, print media.
Yeah.
But outside the funeral home, people are always being born with exciting new ideas and exciting new lives. And there have been hundreds of still existing great experiments on the web. And what journalism is how you do journalism. And I think it's better than it's ever been. So when you tell a story now, we're covering a parade. Yeah. We can tell it with 12 photos written to the photos that make you feel like you're there. We could do a long 3,000-word investigative piece with tons of linking and polls that make you think about the issues. If you're at a concert, you do a video on the songs to listen to, or if you're at a press conference, you get the whole press conference there. The reader can read for his or herself while you're also doing the journalist job of distilling what's important about it. So that's fun, and instantly you get feedback from readers on whether your headline's fair, what information you're leading out. If you cultivate a comment system well, so it's not a sewer, you have so much more expertise in your stories, and the story keeps going. So
like troll control.
So I think there's no better way to do journalism. The only thing you lose is sometimes you don't get as much time to think and do depth. So whereas at weekly journalism, I used to have a story I was thinking about for days. I did do a story this week I thought about for days, but in general, an hour is what used to be 3 days of working on a story. But
is word count like a concern anymore?
Only that if people are going to be interested. So you can go a lot shorter and a lot longer.
You won't go too long, didn't read,
and
but
what a word
you don't need to make it fit
changed.
to a certain number of columns
or
whatever.
I think this is the golden age of journalism. And when I look at state capitol coverage, people say, well, there are so many fewer bureaus. I thought most of the reporting state capitol was fine. They mostly wrote the same thing. Now you got Connecticut News Junkie, which is better than the AP ever was.
You had the AP
Capitol.
writing one thing, and then every local paper was picking it up.
But now you got, I get more than I used to get from the AP. I get from the Connecticut News Junkie. You got the Mirror, which does interesting stuff the Current used to do. You still have Hearst has a very good Capitol Bureau. So they've monopolized. They put a lot of papers, but I get so much more than I need from Ken Dixon and Emil Munson, a couple of those, than I would need from 8 reporters doing the same thing and having all the people chasing the same governor. So and because of lower barriers of entry for media, you wouldn't have had a Connecticut News Junkie if not for the web not making you have a printing press and
all that overhead.
So it's better than it's ever been. I see it all over the country. Better than it's ever been.
So that brings up some interesting questions, though, because you're saying journalism is the best it's ever been in your opinion. But the business is the business of journalism.
The business was terrible because it used to be just raping local communities with corporate monopolies. What they paid for is they just took all the value of our communities to spend the least they could to dress up ads.
That's a good way of looking at it. And the internet wasn't the problem.
Yeah.
It's the acquisition cycle that was the problem, and that began long before the internet arrived.
Yeah.
The internet hasn't helped those legacy companies at all. It's like gasoline on the fire. But when a company comes in, buys 4 or 5 papers, shuts down departments at 3/4 of them, lays off all those people, and then calls that savings profit,
Mm-hmm.
that's siphoning. That's siphoning away from the community. Those are out of state people. The internet is a community builder.
Yeah.
And there's a lot not to like about it. I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
lie about that, but it is a community building tool. And if you have credibility, like my wife Christine Stewart she built this brand.
Yep.
She built this brand herself.
Been reading her for years.
And essentially she has credibility, and people flock to that.
Mm-hmm.
And she does most of it. She did most of the building of that audience with very little help.
Mm-hmm.
This was before social media. It was before email marketing.
Yeah.
She built a lot of that credibility before a lot of the tools existed. But that community has stuck with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're 14 years in. Both the New Haven Independent started relatively the same time.
Both over a decade now, which is
May 9th was the anniversary of our first post. And
I feel like that's a very long time.
She's turned it into a going concern.
It's like dog years here.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and on the internet, that's like 100 years. Yeah.
But I guess one of the questions I have in my head about this being a great time is, back in the day, the companies, those legacy companies that had all that money to build Times Square, to build the Chicago Tribune building, and to pay reporters to work one story.
Yeah, that's great.
And we now have 6 months.
We have the ProPublica, we have the Marshall Project. So there are two ways.
Okay, so I want to talk about how.
So the question is, how do you pay for
it?
It's a really good question.
Yeah.
The old business model no longer works because it's not the most efficient way to sell merchandise anymore.
Print
attaching
advertising
of the stories. That it's much more efficient, much lower cost through social media or direct mail.
Mm-hmm.
Direct email. But we're going back to, again, even a golden age for the business models. For the last 14 years since we've run the Independent, the money has been in philanthropic and PR model, public interest journalism. We define journalism as utility. So ProPublica gets tens of millions of dollars to do the kind of stories you're talking about. It's more than people can read. Marshall Project does it with criminal justice, but I think we're on the cusp of something different. I think there is a new business model that's going to revolutionize and make it better than ever, and I'm not going to be part of it.
No?
No. And I think the new business model is the paywall. It couldn't work 10 years ago. But now readers...
Yeah, people have been talking about it forever.
People talking about it, but so what has changed is the last few years, people started paying $10 a month for stuff on the internet, whether it's a ringtone, a gym membership they don't use. The New York
being
Times,
used to the concept of something that's coming out automatically.
You are now willing to pay for quality journalism. So the New York Times, they now have over 3 million people who pay for it just online.
I get the hard hit, but I pay for it online too.
They get 2/3 of their income or more now from readers. It's amazing. The Wall Street Journal, so it's going to trickle down. I've seen some experiments already, and all it's going to take. So you talk about Oakland, 420,000 people, has no city hall coverage now. Pretty soon, to get 4 good reporters in Oakland, you're going to need only 4,000 people to pay $10 a month.
Yeah.
And then you're not beholden to any one advertiser. Best possible me. The old model wasn't good. No profits being taken out.
You can't write the story about this our biggest advertiser because it would look bad.
So, and you're not going to, and it's going to be a really solid base. I mean, you're not going to need, you have other ways to get sports that pays for itself. You got other ways to get some of the cultural stuff, but to get like the news about government, business, neighborhood, criminal justice, schools, that you need only 4,000 people out of 420,000 in a community. A greater community is actually bigger to pay the bill. That's all it's going to cost. So in a place like Newton, Mass, where they care about the schools, where 90,000 people, you will need only 1,000 people. You're not that yet to pay $10 a month. So that's all whoever read those zoning board articles. That's all whoever read the General Assembly articles. They had fake circulation when they brought in the obits and the sports, but the people who really read those articles are going to pay for them. And I think that's going to be a new golden age.
You mentioned before talking about people that cover the obituaries think people are dying all the time. With this model, you say that there's sports over here, there's this one over here. If it's all decentralized, is the audience self-selecting? Doug, what do you think? Like,
preference? Yeah, I mean it's a la carte. Everybody wants to go. People are going to gravitate to what their interests are, and in some cases, some of those topic areas are really hard to make a living at. In any sense of the word. There's probably not going to be a real profitable site covering the sport of curling. right? You know, I mean,
I'll bet there will be. I bet there are enough curling fans who will.
But you know,
I know a couple of
worldwide,
curlers.
you know, it's tough. You know, it's tough to find from a strictly subscription point of view. If that takes off, that's your best bet. But how are you going to find somebody that wants to advertise to those people? And that's what a lot of
But
local,
it's the reader. It's not the advertising.
right?
Yeah.
But it's easier to find now with the web curling fans all over the world.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think there are that many. But you're right.
Yeah.
You know, that's how you'd have to approach that type of website with that kind of scale. You need to reach everyone that likes curling around the world. Whereas, you know, you're not gonna find a local advertiser, right? So there's a lot of conventional thinking that probably wasn't great for the internet. Like, we need advertisers to support this.
Yeah.
Advertising has changed drastically, and a big part of the problem is the saturation of it. We've gone from a few industries with a limited number of people controlling how many ads most of the world would see to advertising everywhere you look. And it has devalued it. And that is, in my opinion,
pennies a click.
That's the crux of the problem for newspapers and the internet.
I think the other crux is that marketing's gotten more efficient. So like at Toad's Place years ago, the guy said, well, should I advertise in you? I said, would it help you? He said, no, I used to give $1,000 a week to The Advocate. And then he said, now I overpay $100 in Facebook to get every college student who likes this band in 40 miles. I have the email address so everyone's come here and every kid at Yale for free. And that's okay. A business model shouldn't be built on something that doesn't work. That was an anomaly in journalism, that 100 years where ads paid the bills. It used to be the reader. And I think it's okay that it goes back to be the reader.
You know, that's a smart way to go. Like, so the guy the owner of Toads said, I'm going to advertise based on specific bands that I have coming. I'm not going to just advertise my brand in a shotgun approach. I'm going to attack specific events at my venue. And I tell you what, event advertising works really well on social media.
And people want to do brands. We work for that.
Right.
You get associated with the journalism, and you have coverage of stuff you want people to be talking about.
Yeah. You're talking about curling, and you know, worldwide you can find enough curlers to support a site.
Maybe.
You guys aren't talking about curling. You're covering local Connecticut politics.
Right.
So how do you relate that to the audience? How do you keep that? How do you get on the internet, the World Wide Web, a local audience to pay attention to local news?
Civic engagement is struggling, isn't it? I mean, I think that
think
predates the internet.
In New Haven, it's bigger than ever. I know Bowling Alone. You're right, Doug. Bowling Alone is the trend.
But you built that, Paul.
Yeah, and it works. I mean, people find each other, and they're really psyched to be part of a community and talking to people who are different from each other. They like to meet each other. Some of the commenters, there's a conservative cop meeting this lefty lawyer. I mean, it all starts with news reporting. I think the web more than ever makes it possible to do that, Matt, because it's easier for people to find it if it's good quality. Quality finds itself on the web.
Right. But like in the news desert, those communities are suffering. Those communities without a newspaper are suffering because they can't. Well, first of all, the public officials who are elected to run these communities can't get their message out. Yeah. At least, you know, you can get your message out, but it's the Wild West. You know, you're on social media. You as a public official, it brings its own problems when you put up a Facebook page for your town.
Yeah, I mean, we have at our convention for our membership, our local leaders, workshops on navigating social media as a public official.
Right.
But it's a big concern.
Having an authoritative source that is covering things and catching bad actors, calling out stupid spending, calling out good things. Like coverage of a good school system is probably the best single thing you can get as a town. I mean, people are lining up to buy homes in towns with top-notch school systems. That's really the value. But if you don't have anybody looking in and telling those stories, it's a detriment like across the board.
I agree with Doug about the news deserts are suffering without this independent journalism because of the ability to hold government accountable and have an authoritative source. I think that'll change with the paywall. But I think it's also true to some extent the politicians now are news sources, and there's some positive about that. I agree. You can never replace that independent authoritative source to watch.
Yeah, because they're always going to put through their
lens. But it's
lens.
Still good. There's a lot of good information. I watched Kurt Lang, the mayor of Hamden. Like when there's a storm, he's out there at the storm showing you what's being done and getting information to thousands of people.
Yeah, he used his Facebook to be like, here's where the power's
it's really
out,
great,
the trees
and it's
are
not
down.
a substitute for what Doug's talking about. It's not a substitute for independent watchdog journalism. You need that. But that's why I think it's a golden age, because I think what he does is journalism too. A lot of what old newspapers did was print the press release with the public information.
Yeah.
When there's a storm now, you get much more of that. And you need both. And the reason I think there's a golden age, you have so many different kinds of journalism, including politicians and governments getting you their spin, their take, and you know what that is. And then we come in and we also help you.
But there is a certain amount of spin to it. You know, it was said,
but there always
if
was
someone's
spin.
not upset about it, it's not news, it's advertising, right?
But there was always the spin by the big media companies who told you anything America did was right, capitalism is always great, and that you shouldn't listen to these cranks like Ralph Nader. So I don't know.
Oh, good old Ralph Nader. One other thing I wanted to touch on with you guys was we spoke to Tom Condon of the CT Mirror and about the Cities Project. Have you guys heard about this? Are you participating? What are your thoughts on it?
We're too small to participate in that.
Too small.
Yeah, we don't have that. We're really focused on the capital.
We decided not to participate.
It's about
in that. I think
having the staff to devote to it. Okay.
Yeah. I think it's a great project. All these newspapers getting together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't participate because we're dedicating to covering those stories every day. So we go 1,000 or a couple thousand words a day on zoning and housing already, on criminal justice in cities. I think it's great they're doing it. I think it's great that they're uniting to look at that statewide picture. More is better. It's not our wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse is in-depth coverage in New Haven every day.
Yeah,
I should say I'm not aware that Christine is participating in that, but if there's a state law passed that affects zoning across the board, we're covering that, and that's pretty much CT News Junkies' angle is public policy, statewide politics and public policy, which means we are trying to cover things that will impact all the towns, or just anything that trickles down is something that we're trying to cover. It isn't. We don't have the capacity to cover individual towns. It's just we focused on our community is that political community at the Capitol.
Yeah,
and all the
so
feeder.
It's not New Haven; it's Connecticut politics.
Right.
It's your
it's a little
community
different.
as it were.
She might. I may have misspoke. I don't know. I'm not aware that she's participating in it, but it's entirely possible that she's doing some research for that. Like she does.
You never know.
She does.
She does a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
What else we got to talk about? I wanted to actually ask you a little bit about business-wise. You've partnered with Hearst Newspapers. How does that partnership working, and where do you see that going?
Before we partnered with Hearst, the New Haven Independent, the online journalism project, was funding us too, and so those types of partnerships are really helpful to get a small operation solvent. Yeah, it gives us CT News Junkie wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that early monthly stipend from Paul at the New Haven Independent Online Journalism Project. I mean, and he raised money for that purpose. And he wanted capital coverage of on healthcare, and that's how CT News Junkie was born essentially. And it grew into an audience that was monetizable. So we started selling advertising with it, but we still have a contract with Hearst. It was Digital First Media for a while. Then it was Hearst.
We're changing the names,
yeah, basically. But it's a way of disseminating or getting our brand out there. It's a little bit of money coming in, but so
you're essentially the local news bureau.
Yeah, we're a bureau for that. And Hearst is contracted with CT News Junkie and the Connecticut Mirror, and we're competitors. Those two sites were both competitors, but they contracted with us both so that Hearst readers would have access to all of that reporting, and so they pick and choose at our stuff like it's like a wire services. But so from a business perspective, we have a membership program. We raised $30,000 last year. It's the most we've ever raised. We would like that to turn into just like, any one of these cities with 4,000 or 5,000 members.
Kind of like the NPR sort of model. Okay.
Right. We don't have a paywall. It would have been nice if we all did. Going piecemeal one by one, that makes it a little harder. If our competitor doesn't have a paywall and we do, that's problematic. So, but basically, the problem with contracts with Hearst is that all those readers are getting our content and they're paying for a subscription through Hearst papers. And why would they become a member for us? Yeah. So in a sense, it blunts our ability to grow.
Yeah.
Our own
that's what I'm wondering about. There are almost no subscribers left to the Hearst papers.
That's true. It's a sad state of affairs. But the New Haven Register alone used to have 100,000. Average circulation was 100,000 a day. I'm pretty sure all of those papers now in that group of seven or eight are under 100,000.
They're under
print circulation.
They're under 60 total.
Yeah,
I don't know. For a long time, they were towards the end at least, they were giving them away too.
Yeah.
Was the other thing.
But they
I give
enormous
Hearst a
digital
lot of credit. There's an editor at Hearst in Connecticut who's a great guy, Matt Dorenzo. He used to work with Doug in these small papers.
Yeah.
He's trying to help these smaller sites and by having them function like a news service and pay for their content, and it gets them more coverage.
Right. It gets them kind of they wouldn't have otherwise.
I think it's a win-win.
It is. For us, it's a win-win.
Yeah, I know back in the day, the fear was that everything. I remember back at the Advocate, we did a thing about outsourcing everything to India. And it doesn't seem like a news that's happened because, the value of the kind of news that they could do would be rehashing press. It would be like the AP sort of stuff where everyone would have the same thing on a national thing. But the intense local coverage,
what people will pay for is
remotely.
people who know the players, know the issues, and can help you figure it out.
Yeah, the general sort of national boilerplate news is so devalued because you can find it on any site anywhere. But the coverage of what's going on at New Haven City Hall,
I think people are
be
starting to pay for quality. That's why I'm optimistic.
That's exactly what it
the
is.
New York Times is so good, so people will pay for it.
Yeah.
The idea that your mayor is out doing a live stream of himself or herself shoveling snow for one of their constituents. That's great.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna live stream themselves when they're making the hard call, and they're doing something that maybe a lot of constituents won't appreciate.
Actually, I agree, except for Kurt Lang in Hamden. He posts up there. He says, some of you don't agree with this. I'm going to do about like community officers in the schools. What do you think? And people are mad at him getting on there, and they're really debating it. Now, most don't do that. Doug's right. Most politicians can't deal with that.
Yeah,
they don't realize they don't realize it's in their interest to engage the people who don't agree with them.
It takes time too. Time suck. Right. But like the idea of newspapers taking that mayor's press releases or their live feed or whatever and putting it on your website, the mayor's already publishing that.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to do something more than just reprinting press releases now. I mean, you cannot operate as a journalism operation that way anymore.
Yeah, you can get it from anywhere, so there's no point in having it on your local site.
Yeah, I mean, let's say, we have a Washington correspondent, and that's really tough. That's tough work because there's like those senators and Congress people have enormous media operations. All this information that they're putting out.
Murphy's really good at.
Yeah. What are you getting that they're not providing? They're not handing out to everybody.
And in particular, for a political news site, a lot of our readers are already on Murphy's list or all of their lists, essentially. So it's hard to create more value, and that's really become the conundrum for a lot of, especially anybody that wants to try and cover national. What can you do that's different? And
it might be fun to see like impromptu press conferences, or like if just two people are talking to Murphy and asking some tough questions, because he's very good on that, discussing issues, and to see that as like a 4-minute Facebook Live video with a news story. I think people might like that.
You might have to get on that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pause for a moment to do the station ID, and I know Paul had to get back to writing some hard news if that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You were listening to Yes, the Municipal Voice. Thanks, Paul. You're listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH-LP 103.5 FM, broadcasting live from downtown New Haven. We are streaming live on TuneIn Radio and NewHavenIndependent.org. We're also streaming live on Facebook Live. Just go to facebook.com, New Haven Independent, or go to ccm-ct.org. All right. So once again, we are here with Doug Hardy from CT News Junkie. So one of your kind of main things is you're covering Connecticut politics.
Yeah. Yes,
new administration.
Yep. It's been
from a media standpoint, just working relationship. What have you seen so far from the administration? A good working relationship.
Just to be fair, I'm the business manager. Christine handles the coverage, but I do edit the work. I copy edit quite a bit. I hear from her a lot about what's going on at the Capitol, and I would say that anytime there's a new administration, there's always going to be some friction. There's new personnel, and all across the board. I think from what I'm hearing, Governor Lamont is a different kind of operator.
Yeah.
He doesn't operate the way Dan Malloy did. He did not bring in a lot of people for his staff that had already worked in the building, or not a lot, not all of them anyway. There are some, but like I think some of the criticism, particularly from the Republicans, is that he didn't hire anybody that knows how the building works.
Yeah.
I think that's an
extreme.
The
Capitol, experience.
Yeah. And I think that's an extreme characterization. But there have been bumps, and you're seeing it. You're seeing they rolled out the tolls concept, and it's probably not going to happen in this session. And I think it's one of their highest priorities, and they have majorities, right? They have majorities in both chambers. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So like it's going to have to go to special session, or maybe not happen at all, and which would tickle a lot of anti-toll people. You know,
yeah.
That would be the happiest thing for them. They're very vocal. But you know, it's
so like transparency-wise, like working with you guys, that felt
too soon.
Too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah,
to
gotta kind of see where it goes.
I mean, this is his first session, so
as he toughens up in some ways,
right.
and, starts picking his battles a little bit more.
I've met him. You know, he's affable.
Yeah, I mean, he's been
see why he won his election.
He's going to be willing to work with our organization on meeting with town leaders and stuff. So we've been encouraged by that.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to do a lot. From my perspective, and this is an opinion. From my perspective, Connecticut's problems go back decades, and there are no easy solutions to any of it.
Yeah,
it's going to be difficult regardless.
Yeah, there's no fun outcome to the teacher pension problem and stuff like that.
Exactly. You know, like there's going to have to be, there's going to have to be more cuts. There's going to have to be more efficiencies. There's going to have to be more money coming in.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, there's no two ways about it. I think, there's a ton of activity at the Capitol right now. So this is one of the good problems for a site like ours, whereas the New Haven Independent doesn't do a lot in the advertising scene. We have a lot of advertising,
bit more,
and our advertising is from special interests who want to either push through a bill or kill a bill.
Yeah.
You know, and that's basically it. And there's quite a variety of them this year.
Yeah.
And this is a good problem for us to have.
Yeah.
But
you find yourself having to police them a little bit as far as what you let them put on?
You know what? It's easier for us as a political site to deal with advertisers who are moneyed special interests because everything goes through their attorneys than it would be for a local news site to handle local advertisers who don't, like small businesses that don't know how to advertise.
Yeah.
They don't know the first thing, and so.
So they've kind of dotted their I's and crossed their T's and
covered
know
what they're doing.
Their selves
for sure.
ahead of time.
Yeah. And we give them a lot of tools, like that's a big part of my job. Aside from, I push everything out to social media for Christine and the other reporters. I copy edit what I can. We have a part-time copy editor as well. I handle all the inquiries about advertising. I build the advertising tools.
Yeah.
I hire vendors, basically my job is to make sure there's enough money coming in to cover as much news as we possibly
can. Got to be done.
Yeah. And just what Paul was saying earlier as well, is we cover so many more topics now. That, and like your first question was what's different? And I said the 24-hour news cycle is probably the most visceral thing, but the reality is there's no space limitations. What that means is we can write 7 or 8 or 9 stories a day.
Yeah.
With 2 or 3 people. Whereas in the past, every news organization had 1 or 2 reporters at the Capitol, and they would write the budget story.
Yeah.
And maybe 1 sidebar. And they all did that. If somebody else wrote something different, it really would have been surprising. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't typical.
Yeah.
And so now,
but does focusing on the budget
remarkable.
like that, if you're the budget guy, you're there every day doing the budget, is there a depth of knowledge that you're missing, or the time to devote to that one topic to really dive into it?
I mean, Christine reads the budget. Any reporter that covers the budget ought to read the budget.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that they all do, but it's a huge document, and getting access to it and all that, everybody gets it at the same time, and you gotta dig in there.
Yeah.
So there's 2 or 3 days of heavy coverage of that document, and that first few stories are based on the summary, and then the next few stories, like, oh my God, look what I just found. It's like a. Yeah.
I guess the worry, but if you're covering everything, are you diluting your ability to cover any one of them with the attention it deserves?
I mean, you can't cover everything.
Yeah.
You can cover as much as you can cover, but like, the puppy mill bill takes a couple of stories, whereas that may have not been covered years ago.
Yeah.
It isn't that hard to hit on these on a lot of topics, but you go.
Plus, pictures of puppies will get a lot of clicks.
It's true. Although, we decided not to use any.
Because pictures of sad puppies.
It was a political act.
Yeah.
So like, that's one of the things that the internet brings a variety of talent levels to this industry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if you're going to write a fair news story, you also have to pay attention to what kind of artwork you use. Doesn't matter what topic it is.
Yeah.
So would it be fair for us to cover the puppy mill bill, the bill that's basically trying to outlaw, better regulate the pet industry from buying, having pets arrive from out of state,
Mm-hmm.
negligent puppy mill type places?
Yeah.
You know, would it be fair for us to put like a picture of a sad puppy? You know what I mean? Like, that's not really fair, you know? So we take that very seriously. You know, advertising is going to have animals in it because it's paid advertising, you know, but I don't know. There's just, you need to focus a lot of your resources on the big ticket items.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to do that. We hire freelancers. And if I don't have enough, if Christine doesn't have enough freelancers to get to stories, you know, we try to find more, you know? So like, we're still, CD News Junkie is still at a point where we don't have other full-time employees. It's just Christine and I.
Yeah.
But we have 5 or 6 different freelancers. And you know, we have a part-time web person.
A roster of people that they're good and can do it.
Exactly. You have enough people that have knowledge of how it works, and Christine's experience at the Capitol allows her to read stories for factual problems. You know, which is really easy it happens. You know, like it's really easy to come into any legislative body and to write a news story about a bill and not realizing that you're writing about an amendment to a bill.
Yeah.
Like that stuff, those are the types of details
that you need experience and depth of knowledge.
You're not going to find somebody from another country to parachute in and do a good job of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's always going to be value in having people on the ground. You know, I've heard, I'm blanking the name of the school, but there's a nonprofit working with a university out in California that are trying to develop some kind of algorithmic product that will produce paragraphs of content about legislation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Robot reporters.
So, I mean, not so much like what like that would be the soundbite, you know, but what they're saying is this is content that you would use, that other reporters would use to fill in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's kind of where
so it's like almost more of a research sort of thing for reporters.
Right.
You know, I'm looking for a story about this.
Right.
They were talking about it in this bill, and then you find that bill, actually read it yourself more in depth to get the real gist of it.
You should.
Yeah.
But then, of course,
yes, read everything.
Possibility that people start leaning on that and trusting it, and then that becomes the whole product. You know, like I, you know, as the business manager, I'm trying to create jobs.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring in enough revenue to create jobs. Yeah. I also I try to be cognizant of all the better tools. Yeah. You know? So we're not. It's not even. That's not even a product that's available yet.
In money, you were mentioning before how you push everything out to the social media.
Yeah.
How much of your stuff do you think your reader? How many of your readers are coming at it from social media posts? They're seeing the post on Facebook. They're reading it there.
I mean, I could tell you exactly. You know, but it's a chunk. It's funny. There are local news sites that get 90% of their traffic from social. Mm-hmm. We're probably below 30%.
Okay.
You know,
because I guess as the advertisers there, you know, when I'm seeing it on Facebook, I'm seeing Facebook's ads next to your content.
Right. Right.
I mean, is that just sort of the price of doing business? Do you feel like they have this medium that allows you to push yours out to this many people? The cost of that is they get to put their ads rather than yours next to it.
It's an interesting. So you as a Facebook user are seeing advertising that is targeting you. Yeah. It's not so much married to our content. Yeah. You know, but that is a problem.
That money is going into Facebook's pockets. It's going to Zuckerberg, not to you.
They're competitors.
Yeah.
Like a lot of digital publications will sell Facebook ad campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they will help clients, advertising clients, manage their Facebook page. They will help them put together Facebook ad campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook recently tried to do their part to limit foreign influence in elections, and so we all had to register. Anybody that handled political advertising had to register. You had to upload your driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
This was pretty intrusive.
Yeah.
And they actually, as I understand it, they've punted on that. So
they changed their mind.
They're changing their mind about how it's going to work.
Yeah.
But essentially, like, they're trying to do their part. Political advertising on Facebook is a really powerful tool because it isn't just the messaging. It's they're able to tell which people. So if you want to just reach independents or Democrats or Republicans, you can do that.
Yeah.
But you also you know, Facebook knows which people are more willing to click and sign a petition.
Yep.
Who's willing to go and leave a comment. Those types of engagement are a commodity themselves. So
it's
Facebook
not just someone seeing it, someone clicking on it and acting on it, and they have all that information.
Right.
Yeah.
It's way beyond what newspapers ever used to be able to do.
Yeah.
You know, and ignoring it, ignore it at your peril as a news publisher. Ignore it at your peril.
Yeah, good or bad, it's there.
Right, and you've got to find a home in it. And so one of the Paul, we didn't mention this, but Paul and I are both members. Our sites are both members of a group called the Lion Publishers, local independent online news publishers.
Local independent online news publishers.
It's
Lion.
a national educational nonprofit. There's about 250 members.
Is there a website somewhere? I'm guessing people could find.
Yeah, lionpublishers.com. It's a .org, but it's the site predated that designation, the .org designation.
Yeah.
But essentially, it's a group of entrepreneurs who are trying. It doesn't matter whether they're nonprofit or for-profit. There's plenty of both in the group, and the idea is to try and build this business model, to learn about the business model, to make sure that there's still journalism happening in local communities,
which is important.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
It's crucial. It's a huge fundamental piece of democracy.
Yeah, and you feel like it is coming back now through sites like yours. Like I feel like there was definitely a lull with kind of the decline of print.
Yeah,
and the coming up of online. There was like a lull when a lot of stuff was not getting covered because
and there was some coverage. There was coverage. It might have been ProPublica. I don't know. You guys probably read this, but there was a story and a study done of local. I'm sure you actually wrote about this yourself, but there was a study done of local budgets and local politics without newspapers.
Yeah,
like the towns that don't have local newspapers.
Yeah,
like the costs are going up, and there are negative things associated for municipalities for not having
someone writing
presence.
about the Board of Ed's budget went up this year, and
and like if the Board of Ed budget goes up every year and enrollment is going down, what's happening?
Yeah,
you have to give a reason.
The
for
MBR,
that. Right.
That's a big one.
There's all sorts of different pieces of that, but like people really want to know, and the beauty of so I'm actually on the board of Lion too. So full disclosure, but basically the organization's goal is to promote the growth of digital journalism on a local level. And it's not necessarily just town journalism, but it can be state, it can be regional, but we don't really cater to national outlets. But the idea is to help build these businesses, and it's growing. And Paul's organization became part of it a couple of years ago. We've been in it. So it's been over 5 or 6 years, and we have a conference every year. There's just a ton of good energy. There's so many negative things happening with the news business right now, and that is literally because it's because television media, televised media is generally entertainment. It's not real news information.
Yeah,
and newspapers are being gutted.
Yeah,
and
for years, TV
companies.
News, a lot of their stories in reality came from print. They found it, and
a nugget of truth.
They found the lead in the print journalism, and they followed up and added pictures. And
then the 24/7 cycle came. Now we have punditry all day long.
Oh, so much punditry.
Yeah. So they're not helping. They're not helping people. They're not informing people as well as we used to. They're enraging people. And they're making a lot of money on it, which is sad.
And so Lion, I'm guessing one of the main things is to combat that, to
the idea is
bring the information to light, so
provide quality journalism.
Citizens can.
Yeah, I mean, there's an application process. We don't let in every type of publication, but we have expanded. And the goal is
there
grow.
a minimum sort of bar for entry into the organization? Because anyone can start a website.
Right.
I can have my blog tomorrow.
You got to be a going concern. We're not. The idea is like. You should actually be a news business already, and not just a blog somewhere. So there's
some guy spouting off about
how
how much
he
hates or likes something.
Right. So we're looking. we're looking for a level of quality, and a revenue model.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two big tenets. There has to be legitimate news.
Yeah. What are you looking to do, and how are you going to accomplish it?
Right. Essentially. And like if somebody comes to the group and says, I want to become a Lion member, and they can't tell us what they cover,
mm-hmm.
Then they're probably not ready. And CT News Junkie wasn't ready when we first started either. And Christine got the site going.
Figured it out along the way.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but like she labored up there for at least 3 years before our traffic even the dial moved at all.
Pick up. Yeah.
And it just like social media came along, internet, email marketing of content came along.
Yeah.
And that really the email, our first newsletter was once a week on Friday afternoons,
mm-hmm.
which is probably the worst possible
that's
time.
The worst time to send it out.
But that we thought we found, we called it the Friday Night Fix, and we thought that alliteration was fun.
Yeah.
And it was the idea is to try and improve our traffic on the weekend. But improving your traffic on the weekend on the internet is kind of like changing the tides.
Yeah.
You're just not going to do it, generally speaking.
Yeah. People don't want to take time out to read a update on local politics on a Saturday.
Right. But
Tuesday at 10 o'clock in the morning, they're sitting around their computer. They might.
And our daily email goes out at 5:30, and people are reading it. People that make decisions up at the Capitol are reading it on their phones in bed.
That's the other. Is now everyone has it on their phone, so it's
much more
in everybody's pocket at all times.
Yeah. So Lion has been a good source of information for us because people that are solving technical problems or facing ethical challenges or just trying to grow their advertising are talking about it in this group that we built, and we're sharing information. We're basically trying to avoid reinventing the wheel in every market, and it seems to be working. There's there's programmatic money. We set up a mentoring program.
Mm-hmm.
We send mentors out to mentee sites and help them build their tools.
So sending people out. So I guess let's kind of wrap this all up. What do you see in the future for online journalism? What is your vision for where's the News Junkie going to be in 10 years?
That's a good question. I agree with Paul, though. There has never been a better time for growth in the news industry than right now. Unfortunately, what we're still seeing is like the continued degradation of legacy models, and there's a lot of negativity with that.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to start these businesses now than it used to be, and even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So if you can theoretically, if you're laid off from a newspaper, and
as a lot of people have been,
and you're on unemployment for 6 months, you could theoretically have a monetizable audience at the end of that 6 months.
That's a great thing. So, journalism students in school right now, you stick with it? You're thinking?
Well, I would never tell them not to. I think that's awful.
Yeah.
I think going to a career day as a journalist and just saying "woe is me" is the worst thing you could do to anybody. If you don't have something positive to say about an industry, don't go talk to the students about it. Right? That's just the wrong thing to do. But it is challenging. So you want to be honest. And I talk to plenty of different classrooms. It's very challenging. It's getting easier.
But there's a bright there's still a future for good local hard news journalism.
Absolutely. And few different types of business models, like that programmatic concept of like just getting as many page views as you can. That doesn't really work.
Yeah.
You can generate a ton of traffic, but it's going to come from all over the world. You're not going to benefit any local advertiser with that. There's just a lot of ways.
Is it going to continue to be this diverse, or do you think it's going to settle into? Is there a new model that's going to replace the old media model at some point, where it's kind of this is the way it gets done, or is it going to continue to be yours is kind of somewhere between with working with hers, but the advertising and the other stuff, and then there's Paul that's getting grants and nonprofits.
So tax status is a tax status. It's not a business. It's not a business model. That's a Matt DiRenzo. I sourced that to him because it's true. He said it. Your tax status is not your business model. But in some markets, being a nonprofit is really helpful. But the nonprofit world does not have enough money to fund the news industry as it is.
So it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah,
solution.
it's not. And the nonprofit money would fund 5 or 10% 5, more likely 5% of the whole
Mm-hmm.
news industry right now.
Yeah.
So it's really a tiny slice. So we need business models that work.
Yeah.
For-profit.
Well, that
business
actually,
models.
because of our being CCM and all.
Yeah.
Last question: is there a place for government in journalism in funding it? Like, should there be? Could there ever be?
I don't know. So, public broadcasting
Mm-hmm.
is government funded to some extent, and most of it. And the BBC is a good example. The United States is very different, though, and I don't know. I don't know that it would behoove any publisher to lean on government funding and still be covering that government entity. I don't think
that's true. Yeah.
Like we have newspapers are still benefiting from public notice revenue.
Mm-hmm.
There were 6 or 7 bills this year that would have eliminated that and allowed towns to publish those directly to their own websites.
Mm-hmm.
Also, not a good solution in my opinion. Because no one's going to find them
from the town side.
From the town side, it's free.
It's free to publish online, and they're paying to support
a
legacy sort of thing.
Right. I think I personally, I think the smart thing to do, in that vein, would be to look at it holistically and say we still need news coverage.
Mm-hmm.
It's vital to us. We may not like this particular reporter, but this coverage is vital. So what are we going to do now? Are you going to funnel outrageous rates for public notices to out-of-state companies that are just siphoning the money away that aren't really covering your town very well? Or are you going to, or can you decide to focus it on, your local locally owned and operated digital news organization like Nancy on Norwalk.com she's a nonprofit too, and she gets advertising from Norwalk in public notices, and they're actually very nice looking.
There you go.
And I think New Haven Independent has an agreement with the city. They've provided an option. Well,
that's cool.
And they're prominent. Those notices are prominent, so they're on the front page.
They're not buried in the back of the classified section.
They probably get a little bit of traffic. They're probably not getting a ton, but it's.
They're probably getting as much as the print ones are these days. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the print ones, the ones that actually go out in print, you can't really tell if anybody sees them.
Yeah, if they go to the back.
Right. You have no idea. It's a challenging. It's a challenging thing. And the worst thing I think that, opening up that Pandora's box is that what that could do is that could really kill some newspapers, which is the last thing anybody really wants.
Yeah.
They may be an anachronism in today's digital world, the act of printing them, but they still are really valuable.
Yeah.
So like killing that revenue stream wouldn't solve any problems either.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
We've been speaking with Doug Hardy from the new CT News Junkie. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM, WNHH, 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer. Christopher Gilson is our producer. Harry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like. And watch out for CCM Chat series on our YouTube page. Just search for CCM Chats, and you'll find them in one convenient playlist.